happening. Doors would be opened that they swore they had closed. Picture frames fell from walls without explanation, and every night, Sarah heard the breathing. But Alex didn't believe her. "It's just the house settling," he said. "You're stressed from the move." Then came the scratches. One morning, Sarah found long, deep scratches across the bedroom window frame, as if something had clawed its way inside. Alex laughed it off. "Probably raccoons," he said. But Sarah noticed something he didn't. The scratches weren't on the outside. They were on the inside. Part 2. The House Wakes Up. 5 Men. One evening Sarah was cooking dinner when she heard footsteps upstairs. Heavy, deliberate footsteps. Pacing back and forth. She froze. Alex wasn't home yet. Clutching a knife, she crept up the staircase, each step groaning under her weight. The footsteps stopped the moment she reached the top. The hallway stretched before her, dark, silent, empty. She checked every room. Nothing. But when she returned to the kitchen, something made her blood run cold. The knife block on the counter was empty. Every single knife was gone. She backed away, trembling, until she heard a soft clatter. The knives were back in the block, perfectly placed, as if they'd never moved at all. That night, Sarah begged Alex to listen. "Something's in this house," she whispered. "It's watching us." But Alex shook his head. "You're scaring yourself. We're fine." And then the lights went out. Pitch darkness swallowed the house. Alex cursed, fumbling for his phone. But Sarah couldn't move. Because in the darkness she saw them. Dozens of pale, glowing eyes staring at her from the walls, the ceiling, the floor. And beneath the eyes, faces began to emerge. Twisted, hollow, screaming faces pressing out from the wallpaper, as if the walls themselves were alive. She screamed. The lights flickered back on. The walls were normal again. But Alex had seen nothing. Part 3. The Reveal. 5 Men. Alex finally agreed to dig into the house's history. What he found turned his skepticism into terror. 30 years ago, a man named William Grady had lived there. A quiet man. A recluse. Neighbors said they rarely saw him. Until one winter night, when screams echoed through the street. By the time police arrived, they found the bodies of his wife and 2 children sealed inside the walls. Grady was never caught. Some say he still lived there, hiding between the walls, waiting. Sarah broke down in tears. "We have to leave, Alex. We can't stay here." But Alex clenched his fists. "We're not running. It's just stories." That night was their last. At 3:17 a.m., Sarah woke to the sound of whispers, thousands of whispers, overlapping, coming from inside the walls. She shook Alex awake. "Do you hear that?" This time he did. The whispers grew louder, turning into guttural screams. The walls began to bleed, thick red streams pouring from the cracks. Suddenly the bedroom door slammed shut. The air turned icy, their breath visible. And then from the corner of the room, a figure stepped forward. A tall, skeletal man, his face half-rotted, eyes glowing pale. He opened his mouth. But instead of words, the sound of thousands of voices poured out. Alex grabbed Sarah's hand, yanking the door open. They ran down the stairs. But the house shifted around them. Hallways stretched endlessly. Doors led to brick walls. Staircases looped back onto themselves. The house was alive, and it wasn't letting them go. Part 4. The Ending. Neighbors reported hearing screams that night. But when police arrived, the house was silent. Empty. No sign of Alex or Sarah. Their belongings remained. Their car in the driveway. But the couple had vanished. Weeks later, the house went back on the market. The realtor smiled, painting over the faint handprints that stained the walls. Another young couple toured the property. They loved it. It was perfect. And in the shadows of the upstairs bedroom, dozens of pale eyes opened once more, watching, waiting, hungry. Narrator, whispering tone. Some houses aren't haunted. They're hungry. And once you step inside, they never let you go. Some houses should never be found. Some doors should never be opened. And yet, there's always someone curious enough to try. It all started with an invitation. No envelope. No sender name. Just a folded slip of paper slid under my apartment door. The paper was yellowed, brittle at the edges, like it had been written decades ago, though the ink was still fresh. It read, "One night only. A tour of the Harrowick house. Midnight. Transportation provided. No signature, no details, just a crude sketch of an old key. I should have thrown it away, but that night, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "We'll be waiting outside, don't be late." And when I peeked through the blinds, a black bus idled at the curb, headlights cutting through the fog. Inside the bus, others sat quietly, their faces pale and nervous, strangers, all clutching the same invitation. Not one of us spoke as the bus rolled through winding back roads. No driver's face, just gloved hands on the wheel. Then, rising out of the mist, it appeared, the Harrowick house, a Victorian monstrosity, its roof slanted and broken, shutters hanging by a single rusted hinge. The windows reflected nothing, like they weren't glass at all, but black pits swallowing the light. And yet, against all reason, a faint glow pulsed from within. The house that should not exist, but somehow did. Part 2. First impressions. Build up. 5 men. The air turned colder the moment we stepped off the bus. The grass crunched underfoot, as if frozen. No crickets, no owls, not even the sound of wind. The world itself was holding its breath. The front doors swung open, before we even touched them, groaning as though the wood was alive. Inside, the walls were covered in peeling wallpaper that had once been elegant. Gold trim, dulled to brown. Chandeliers dangled overhead, but the crystals were clouded, dripping with some dark residue. Our guide stood waiting at the base of the staircase, a tall, frail man in a black suit. His face was pale, skin stretched too tight, eyes hollow but gleaming. His voice rasped as though every word cost him something. "Welcome to Harrowick House. Once you enter, you do not leave, until the house decides." We laughed nervously, thinking it was part of the show, but he didn't smile. He handed each of us a candle, already lit, though none of us had matches, and as he did, he whispered something different into every ear. When it was my turn, his cracked lips brushed too close, and he hissed, "Yours burns fastest." I didn't know what he meant, until I saw that my candle was already dripping wax faster than the others. The group scattered through the house, curiosity stronger than fear. Some went upstairs, others toward the back halls. I lingered, staring at portraits lining the wall. Each frame held a family photograph, except the faces were scratched out, deep gouges where eyes should be. And then I noticed something chilling. There were exactly as many portraits as there were people in our group, and the last frame, the one at the far end of the hallway, was still empty, waiting. Part 3. The house tests us. Deepening horror. 6 men. We thought it was a tour, but it wasn't. The house wasn't showing us itself. It was studying us. The first scream came from upstairs. A woman had wandered into the nursery, drawn to the sight of a rocking horse that rocked on its own. The moment she touched it, the door slammed shut. We rushed to open it, but when it creaked back open, the nursery was empty. No woman, no rocking horse, just a crib with fresh blood smeared across the sheets. Another man tried to run back to the entrance, but the door he came through no longer led outside. Instead, it opened into the dining room, where a feast was set, meat glistening, wine spilling from goblets. The food looked delicious, until one brave soul picked up a piece of meat, and realized it was raw, still warm, still pulsing. Every attempt to leave only led us deeper inside. The halls rearranged themselves, doors shifting, staircases moving, like they were breathing, and always, the house whispered, faint voices bleeding from the walls. At first they sounded like prayers, then, like pleas for help. But as the night deepened, the whispers grew sharper, like accusations. "You shouldn't be here. This is your fault. You were chosen." My candle burned lower, wax splattering my hand. That's when I saw it. A figure in the corner, cloaked in shadow, watching me. No face, no features, just a silhouette darker than the dark around it. When I blinked, it was gone, but the air stayed heavy, like it was still near. Part 4. The history of Harrowick. Backstory. Suspense. 4 men. We stumbled into the library, hoping to catch our breath, but even here, the house waited. Books lined the shelves from floor to ceiling, their spines cracked and brittle. One man pulled a volume free. It fell apart in his hands, pages crumbling to dust. But then, tucked between 2 massive tomes, I found a leather-bound diary. Its cover was scarred, as if something had clawed it. Inside, the ink was faded, but the words still screamed from the page. It was written by Eleanor Harrowick, the last living member of the family. She wrote of how the house demanded offering, how every generation was forced to feed it, or it would consume them whole. Her final entry read, "The house is not a home, it is a mouth, and it will never be full." The ink ended there, but the page beneath was stained dark like it had absorbed blood. Someone whispered that the Heroic family vanished overnight in a stew, their bodies never found. Neighbors swore the house wasn't there the next morning, and yet, here we were, inside it. Part 5. The Final Hours. Climax. 5 men. By now, half our group was gone, taken by locked rooms, swallowed by shadows, lured into halls that disappeared, their candles left behind, flickering on the floor, melting into nothing. My own flame was almost gone, burning fast just as the guide had warned. That's when the clock in the foyer struck midnight. Not 12 chimes, but 13, each one heavier, deeper, shaking the walls until dust fell from the ceiling. The guide appeared again, standing impossibly still. His voice was low, final. "The house is awake." The portraits on the wall, the ones with scratched out faces, were no longer empty. Faces had appeared, our faces, each of us trapped forever in oil and canvas, eyes wide with terror. One by one, the candles went out, and each time, a scream followed. When only my candle remained, I ran through shifting halls, past doors that opened to brick walls, past staircases that led nowhere. The whispers grew into screams. Hands clawed from the wallpaper. The floor pulsed like flesh beneath my feet. Finally, I burst into the front hall again. The exit door loomed ahead, but the guide blocked the way. His skin sagged now, his jaw unhinged, his voice no longer human. "Your flame is done." And with that, my candle sputtered and died. Part 6. The ending. Resolution. Darkness swallowed everything. When I woke, I was no longer inside the house. I was back in my apartment. No bus, no invitation, just silence. For a moment, I thought it was all a nightmare, but then I saw it. Hanging above my desk, where no painting had been before, was a portrait of me. My face, frozen in terror, eyes wide, mouth open in a silent scream. The brush strokes were still wet, and in the bottom corner, painted in thick, dripping black letters, was a name I did not write. Heroic. The house had found me, and it's only a matter of time before it comes back for you.